everybody. Today with me, I have Meghan Houle of the Meghan Houle Method, Pivot with Purpose, so many other things that we're going to talk about today. So how are you today, Meghan?
Hi, Katie. I'm doing so well. Yay, TJF. It's a Friday, maybe for anybody watching it. So I'm so excited for the Friday and the weekend and all of it. So I'm doing really well. Thank you for
Good. You're
asking.
welcome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you on. So Meghan and I have been working professionally in a little bit of a different capacity for the last few years. So she's been, my partner in crime trying to help me figure out my next moves. But today I want to hear about her next moves and what she's been working on because she has a lot that she's accomplished in 2020 and bringing into 2021. So I figured let's hear about it. So I'm so excited. So if you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Meghan, that'd be amazing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for that kind introduction. And yes, so appreciate our relationship and all that you are doing as well. So for me, I am a seasoned retail veteran, somebody who at a very young age thrusted myself into the working environment. As I saw the other day, minimum wage back when I first started, I think we're at like $4.25. I'm like, shoot. And I get up every morning at 5 a.m. to go to my job on the weekends, at 16 and just make it happen. But, bottom line, that work ethic for me throughout my entire life has just been really strong. I love working. I love people. I also love having a good balance, but in really transitioning to sort of where it's led me now, starting off in retail and running, some pretty big flagship businesses. I know you and I share a little bit of a connection of being on Cape Cod for a while, which is where I was for a few years after I got out of school in New Hampshire. And, it was kind of fun. That was a little bit of my first taste of kind of owning my own retail business and running a big store in the Cape Cod Mall, CCM.
Whoop, whoop.
Where I remember across the way was like Filene's. People are probably like, what's Filene's? But like we ran the show. And I think at just a very young age, given a ton of responsibility, I loved it. I loved hiring teams. I loved seeing people grow. Hiring people that then went off to college and, did big things themselves. And, you feel like you have all these children that go off and like do amazing things that maybe were inspired by you. Who knows? Probably not. No, I'm just kidding.
No, for sure. Definitely by you. Definitely by you.
No, they're like, oh boy, Meghan. But no, we really just tried to create really positive working environments where people were valued and seen and heard. And I think that's really what's carried me through my career in coming out of the Cape and transitioning in Boston and working for many, many years on Newbury Street, running big boutiques for multi-category businesses until, about 2007, 2008. We had a business I was running on Newbury Street that unfortunately went bankrupt. And that's really was my first big pivot into, the spaces where you and I've been playing for a very long time, which is luxury. And I looked at myself back then and I was like, oh, geez, and interviewing for all these brands, like, no one's going to want to look at me. I don't have luxury experience. Like, I kind of have done, some things here and there, but I'm not good enough, and really kind of coming into that imposter syndrome. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're just so confident in what you've done, in your accomplishments, that can speak just really authentically to what you bring to the table, that's what really gets you noticed. And, we see it all the times where sometimes people look great on paper and they just don't translate well in person. I've always been like, it's not about my resume, it's about what I bring to the table. So I took that confidence in all of the successes I had, and I was interviewing with LVMH. And I think it was probably about 8 interviews, and a lot of in person in New York City with the suit and getting all nervous and like the Louis Vuitton offices of like, oh my gosh, like J-Lo, all the things, this little like podunk upstate New York chick with a little bit of Cape Cod experience coming into the big city and then, going to like the Mecca of all things at LV. I wound up getting the job to run the Louis Vuitton store at Saks here in Boston, where I'm based. And it was awesome. The department store Saks had just opened. I think it was less than a year. A manager that had come to run the store was actually promoted and brought to New York. So I was brought in to run that lease space. And it was so fun to work in Saks because Saks has such a great synergy where I was a Louis Vuitton employee, but we also had access to like the whole department store. So we got to like hang out with the Dior peeps and the Fendi peeps and the makeup department and all the samples. I'm like, Lemaire, you know, like come over, give me some samples.
Like, dream come true.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
And the Fifth Avenue Club, which if anybody knows Saks or seeing, you know, they had this like great sort of private client offering where, you know, we were dealing with a lot of like really cool high-end clients. And I had the best team at Saks. I mean, we cranked. We did so well. You know, Katie probably knows this well, but for anybody that's working in Massachusetts in luxury, tax-free weekend, where you would think like Justin Bieber was like having a concert. I mean, lines out the door, people like grabbing and throwing and like pushing people out of the way. It's kind of like the retail luxury Black Friday, right? Because there's never discounts for most things. And, you know, it was that like one time a year where everyone's like, I'm going to save up for tax free. So we get crazy. But it was wonderful. And from there, I actually was promoted to the store in Boston and took over the big flagship Copley location as the head of leather goods, which was also just this incredible experience of managing a multi-million-dollar business for one of the world's arguably most recognized iconic brands. And, you know, selling, and you can relate, $50,000 ostrich backpacks, you know, to the speedies on the floor for people that have been saving up, you know, their whole lives to get the LV bag. You know, it was just such a great experience for me in really having a chance to just deal with all different types of clients and local celebrities and very well-known celebrities and my awesome team there, which I think at that point we had maybe like 40 people working within the business at any given time. Yeah, from my sales team, which was 26 people in itself, to ready to wear, I mean, men's, fine jewelry. We had it all there in Copley. It was incredible. And for me, the retail space, I will never discount my experience in this business because I feel like it truly has led me to where I am now. So my big pivot out of retail, where I'm not working at Louis Vuitton anymore. And for those asking, oh my God, why leave Louis? Can I get your discount? That's like the other question.
Always, that is the number one question. Yes.
I'm like, I have no powers left, people. My powers are gone. But yeah, so it was this moment that I was like, you know what? I do love what I do. But maybe like others watching or for anybody thinking about careers or what's next, feeling a little bit of burnout, feeling a little frustration. We went through probably one of the busiest years that we've ever had. We had a huge Paris visit where the global meeting for the company was actually in Boston.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
That's intense.
So
yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, we were up every morning at 5 a.m. I've seen, you know, moments in Copley probably nobody should ever see in our mall up at 4:30 a.m. on the floor underneath like the windows, like scrubbing with like a toothbrush, like the dust on the floor, and people be walking by, like going to work. I'd be like, I'm sorry. You're like, this is my life. No, I belong here. Trust me. But, you know, it was a big preparation that we did and just all the things. So, you know, really after all of that, just sitting with really what's next and knowing that I've always loved people and arguably, you know, from opening stores and all of my open jobs that I've had over the years, I've probably hired hundreds of people, interviewed thousands of people, and, you know, really thought about taking that love and maybe, you know, kind of following that path. So I connected with a recruiting firm that actually placed me when I was at Louis Vuitton and had such a great experience getting that job. And you always want to work for the best, right? So you really try to align yourself and remember experiences of brands that, you know, maybe you interview for, people that you work with, and you're like, oh gosh, that was like really positive. So I wound up calling the business partner that I work with alongside now at the Bowerman Group here. and was like, hey, you should hire me because I want to get out of retail. And I know you recruit in luxury and specialty and consumer goods. And that has been my world I've been living in since I have been capable of working. And I'd love to be able to get into company cultures and talk to people and really get to the heart of their passion and motivation. It's a little like job matchmaking, right? So you find the right candidate, you make sure they make sense for that right company, and then you move forward from there. So had a lot of conversations. LV, when I finally committed to saying I wanted to do this, did not want to let me go. My resignation took 6 months. Yeah, they're like,
we're still pulling you back in. We're not letting you go. Yeah.
I resigned in January. I think my last day was like June 29th.
and Bowerman's just waiting for you to start.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is because the relationship that I had with him placing me there, it had to be very much a conversation about, listen, Meghan came to us. We really didn't try to actively poach her. And the thing was at that moment, which I think so much now of COVID has changed, is the fact that if you wanted to get into corporate, everything was in New York. And I really was not set up to move to New York. I had just got engaged, and now my husband's business is here in Boston. So it just didn't make sense. And if I wanted to do talent acquisition, I'm like, there's nothing more that I can do here. And I don't want to take over completely this big store. That's not my path, right? Yeah. And you kind of have to know that and commit to it. And even though it's sad to leave something, I mean, very much like your wonderful tenure, I was there for almost 6 years. It was definitely not an easy decision walking away from a big prestigious brand to this very small, scrappy recruiting firm where I walked in and I had none of my own clients. What we do here is very specialized, and a lot of what we do is very commission based. So, I had to come in with from zero and, prove that I just knew this industry and the network connections and the credibility and that fearlessness of not being afraid to reach out to a senior executive or a CEO and have a conversation, ask for a conversation. People are people. At the end of the day, it is scary. And sometimes you sit and think, well, maybe that person doesn't want to talk to me, or, they're not going to want to know me. You can't assume anything. People are always curious. And especially if you make it a little bit about them when you're trying to connect of gosh, I'm so impressed with your story, your career journey. I'd love to get to know you and really organically start to build relationships there. As you probably see in your stores and in your time selling, the hard sell in anything in life typically doesn't always work. It's a two-way street. So there has to be trust established, that someone can say, okay, wow, this person, does have pretty authentic intentions, because anyone a mile away can smell that dirty car salesman. And that's just not me. I'm not fake. I truly want the best for people. I want everyone to win. And that's kind of really how I started to build my business, was to just ask for conversations and get to know some pretty powerful leaders out there in the luxury space, which was really fun. So going from working within just LVMH to then being able to diversify my client portfolio of working with all different types of big global luxury brands, startups like fashion, beauty, home, design, watch and jewelry, all the things. It's just been an amazing transition where now I've almost been here for about 9 years. And at Bowerman Group, I run a full desk. I recruit for retail, corporate, and wholesale all across North America at all levels, from social media managers to CFO projects I'm working on right now. So I get to pivot a lot during my day to be able to talk to people at all different levels, just starting out in their career, really invested in their career. So it's super rewarding. And that's a little bit of my story of just kind of getting out there and establishing myself and being just really confident and also very clear in who I am and what I want to do, and just following that path where it's totally not easy, and big change is really hard and scary, but nobody can take away those things that you have proven inside of your soul of like who you are, what's been ingrained in you. And I think just being confident on what you can bring to the table and bring to other companies, if you can really make that shine, whether you're having a conversation or in an interview with somebody or networking, it's a pretty magical thing to possess, you know? So that's where I am now and still hustling away.
Yes, you are forever a hustler. But I will say, you know, for what you just talked about, your whole history of how you got to where you are, you've always been working for a company, but now you've pivoted and you're working for yourself in addition to also still working full-time for Bowerman. So if you want to dig into the projects that you've started, because I want to first talk about the Meghan Houle Method, because that was a huge thing. And then you also just recently started the podcast, which is like another layer of your fabulousness. So to really kind of like, you know, how did you decide like, okay, this is my moment to shine. Like I can do so much and, you know, sell myself and connect with others representing a company, but now I'm going to represent myself and spreading, you know, my wealth or my talents elsewhere and kind of creating your own brand. So how did you like decide, like, what was that moment that you're like, oh, I need to do this on my own?
Yeah, gosh, it was at the beginning of January 2020, where I think we all sort of was like, ooh, 2020, a new year, a new decade.
Like the Great Gatsby.
Right, flirty and thriving, you know, like here we go. And I, you know, have been having conversations of like, yeah, what's next? You know, what's going to be my legacy? How maybe can I step out from being under an umbrella, so to speak, right, of a brand, of a company, and stand on my own 2 feet? And yeah, I really was thinking about some interesting strategic ways to pivot, but we were busy. You know, I will tell you, probably like you've heard with many people's stories at the beginning of 2020, it was cranking. It was cranking. I mean, I laugh in a story that I was telling us, probably one of my last times in an airplane, was last February flying to the West Coast, and I was giving job offers from a plane, Katie. Like I was like buying the United Wi-Fi. Like she accepted like 30,000 feet in the air. I mean, that's probably like my crown shining moment, but you know, we were cranking. And I think sometimes in life when you are going through the motions, it's busy, you're just like comfortable. Okay, I can do this with my eyes closed. You got my schedule. Everything's working for me. Yeah, you sit and you're just like, okay, you know, this is what I'm going to do. Fast forward to March and retail and the global pandemic, and then, you know, complete shutdown, where all business operations globally to what we've ever known in our whole lives, for most of us, you know, that just have been here on this earth, everyone watching pretty much never experienced it. Unlike on 9/11, unlike the economic crash, like this was like a complete halt. And, you know, for our clients that really exist in retail, I mean, yeah, sure, there was a moment that we were still recruiting, but all projects, you know, for the most part that we knew with all the uncertainty were put on hold. I mean, we had job offers that unfortunately got rescinded because they're like, we can't take people on board right now. And I was like, oh my God, you know, Candace's like, I just resigned last week. I'm like, I'm sorry. What is going on? You know, and it was just filled with so much uncertainty. And then that voice, you know, kind of kept creeping up, just like the voice I had. Same thing with LV. It's like, you know, you kind of have something in your soul and you need to explore that. Not pushing it down, not being like, you know what, I'm doing good. I'm just going to go through the motions. But if you are not authentically kind of living out to your purpose and living through whether it's the opinions of others of like, okay, this is what you should be doing. This is what makes sense. To try to please others, your family, whatever it is, or, you know, just saying like, Meghan, that sounds crazy. Like you got a good job, just like relax. I'm like, no, you know, here maybe is my sign for the universe that I was thinking about in January of like how I could start my own platform to be given the time to do it. And I took that moment where I think there were a lot of people sitting in fear and uncertainty and frozen, Netflix and chill, you know, all the things, which is great and fine. Like rest, it was a lot of overwhelming emotions. Like we have to feel the feels, but then also be able to move on and say, okay, I can't, this is not my forever and we'll get through this, but how can I make myself more productive, or how can I make the most of this time that I have? Because it may not be ever available like this again, so to speak. Let's hope not. So, with that, let's hope not.
Yeah.
So with that, I actually hired a coach. I started hiring a coach because I definitely was dealing with some pretty, serious mindset issues. Like anybody, maybe feeling frustrated at work or just in general, to work with a coach, which is sort of my Meghan Houle Method platform we'll get to, really helps you push you, a little bit out of your comfort zone, maybe challenge you a little bit, challenge your thinking, doing the hard work on yourself, and then really ultimately help me kind of put a business plan together to get this in motion for what I'm sort of managing here with my additional offering. So I also did go through an ACC accredited program through the World Coaching Institute, where now I'm also in a master's program to get accredited as actually a business career personal development executive coach. I wanted to, just like anything in life, have the credibility and the experience of education and, being able to work with coaches all across the world through the World Coaching Institute that gave us great tools and learnings. And, you have to do so many hours of coaching and, you have to actually do the work too, which was it's really scary, obviously, to start anything new. But I was like, wow, this is really fun, to not only have this side of my recruiting business, but then to be able to bring this Meghan Houle Method platform to life, which really then supports now being able to help people through their own personal development, their own career development. I work a lot with small businesses to help them scale and define their customer profile, or help them open new locations, or their talent, sort of strategies and whatnot. So it was really a moment where I took the opportunity to listen to myself and really what was nagging at me, go through the coaching program to come out and create Meghan Houle Method, which, yes, has ultimately given me this wonderful platform to help people that maybe I can't help on the recruiting side, because maybe you reach out to me, I don't have a job for you. Right now we can we can keep you in mind, but if you're struggling with a resume, if you're struggling with LinkedIn, if you're struggling to interview, if you're struggling to get noticed out there, if you can't talk about yourself, if you don't want to do the work, but you think why aren't people reaching out to me for jobs? It's magical things happen, but those things, don't just sometimes fall into our laps. We absolutely have to do the work to get out there and make it happen. So it's been really cool working with people, hosting webinars. That was a big thing. Also, I created going through the Meghan Houle Method of you're doing now, bringing together people through video, social platforms, having a bunch of people jumping on my webinar to learn 5 steps to how to get hired soon, coaching and mentoring college students who graduated and they're like, it's May, what do I do?
It's May in a pandemic.
I don't want to live in my parents' basement for the rest of my life. How can I get a job? And I'm stay in your parents' basement. Trust me. No, I'm just kidding. Just stay in there. But no, it was it's so rewarding to me and soul filling in various different ways, where creating this platform really has nothing self-serving to do with me. It's more about having something where I can stand on my own 2 feet and build a little bit of my own brand messaging. And for once, be I want my brand to look like this. I want my logo to look like this. I want it to feel like this. This is what I want to say. Where working under a big corporate umbrella, working for somebody else, it's more just about execution. Execution, do your job, show up, meet the goals, all of the things. But this has given me a chance to just propel myself even further and giving me a lot of other different platforms to be able to share my voice, hopefully add value out there in other ways to people that are struggling or, I can relate with going through the same things. I mean, the road to this point has not been easy. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, seasonal depression, frustration, just the days where you feel it's too much, I don't want to deal, and a lot of anxiety, where if you really can shift your mindset and be and working on things that really serve yourself and your soul, that you're excited about, that bring you joy every day, it's pretty exciting when you can get to that point and really be proud about what you're doing, and doing it for yourself is great, but it certainly takes time, and I'm building and continuing to build. It's almost about maybe 8 months as the Meghan Houle Method has wrapped. And now I have all of my social media things set up, the podcast, as you were telling, and sort of talking about my programs. I'm looking to do some mentoring, community, small group coaching, coming up here in March and whatnot. So yeah, you can come to me and I'll still help you find a job. But also you can come to me and we can work through a lot of other things too. So I'm a one-stop shop for all things professional development,
You are. Yeah. You are like the Jack, or I guess the Jill of all trades. I mean, you have such extensive, history behind you of like being on that store level to being in a corporate level to, now being able to say, I know, because I was where you were at one point in my career. I can help you elevate to where you need to be, because you've had like leaps and bounds of career growth. And now it's just nice to kind of see, your change in your mindset of like having renewed passions. Like, this is what you're passionate about, and it's like, you were passionate when you were working on the Cape, you were passionate when you were working for Louis Vuitton, you were passionate, for Bowerman, but now it's time to find your personal passions that align with your professional passions. And that's what I really love. And the fact that you kind of took it in your own hands and you were able to really just like take the pandemic for what it was. And you saw the opportunity to say, okay, this is my time to shine. I'm never going to have this time to ever come back to this again. Just similar to what I was telling you off camera, starting in the media group. I'm like, if I'm going to be sitting at home, I need to learn something. I'm not just
something.
I'm not just going to watch all of Netflix. Like one day Netflix is like, you have completed every show.
Right. You're like, you're canceled now because there's nothing more for you to do.
Exactly. Because I'm like, you are just as much of a busybody as I am. I'm like, I have to stay focused, energized, fulfilled, all of the whatever words that you want to say. But it's just like, you have to just keep moving, because if once you stop, the burnout is so real.
Oh yeah. No, it's exhaustion. It's so easy to be shot out of the cannon every day, and feel like you're going from 0 to 100. And, there's definitely those days where I'm like, it does feel a little overwhelmed, but you just have to back up and say, especially starting a new business, you have to put in the hustle, you have to put in the time, you have to plant the seeds, know that it's all going to reap the rewards. But in the meantime, still, give yourself a time to rest, relax, give yourself a lot of gratitude, grace for getting through 2020 in the moments, for all the loss, for all the resilience and the adversity, and being at home and being away from friends and family and being so disconnected. None of us have ever experienced anything like this. And it is a complete shock to your body. And you don't always have to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I have to do everything all day and make my to-do list and like kick yourself if you don't feel accomplished. Like, it's okay, to take breaks and to rest and to maybe have a day where you don't do it all. And I think that's good to remember too, is that continuing to push yourself and, and really working almost against yourself to say, here's this goal. If I don't put in 100 hours, I'm not going to get there. I mean, it's crazy. It works against you. It really does. That resistance you are putting against your body of thinking that the more productive you are, the more that you're going to get out of it. Sometimes that's not always the case, because it literally leads to burnout, and you just become super frustrated and overwhelmed with the process. And that's where a lot of people give up, So it takes time. It really does. And everybody, be grateful for what we've gone through and where we are now, and hopefully have some nice glimmers of hope coming up here in 2021, where we're seeing some things turn for the better. Fingers crossed. So
let's hope. I know. Well, I definitely think, and I have said this to, loved ones, I'm like, people had like a renewed hope of 2021, a new president's coming in. We're like leaving a whole year behind that was like really shitty from the first quarter on. And I'm just like, you guys have to understand, like, COVID is still here. The first part of the year is going to still be shitty. Like you
Right.
can't just
We're
think
not
that
out
all
of
of a
it.
sudden, whatever's happening, like on a economic, political scale, whatever it is, like however your feelings are about it, that automatically everything's going to change and everything's going to be amazing. It's not. We're going to have to live with these like really gross moments of 2021, knowing that there's better on the back half. And I think that's what we just really have to, correct our mindset now walking into this new year of saying like, this is the worst of it, but we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's a lot of like part of what you're coaching. I mean, we're talking professional and personal. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So if you can help coach them, retrain them, switch their mindset, do whatever you can to kind of like understand that you are more than just this year that we're living in. You are more than just like this awful work situation that you're in, or the inability to have like people connect and see your value. You're so much more than that. And I think that that's really nice for you to be able to kind of encourage people and guide them to that realization where they don't have it for themselves. So
no, it's hard. It's really, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't communicate the value that you add and your why and what you want to do, no one's going to tell you what you're worth.
Right, exactly.
You have to fearlessly go out there and be like, this is me, this is what I offer, and just be unwavering, with that communication. And don't let anyone knock you down. Don't make anybody shrink you down. Don't make anybody have you feel smaller than you feel like you should be just to step into a job or a situation where you're like, oh, I haven't been working, or maybe I should just do this because it's what's available now. It's like, no, if it's still not aligning to what you want to do, something else will come along, and trust that. And not to get woo woo, and I'm not, like super, I love the universe. I'm pretty spiritual, but trust that, everything has a plan, good, bad, or otherwise. And I say this all the time, sit there in that mindset and think like, how is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me?
Right.
So,
absolutely. No, I agree. Because if we victimize ourselves all the time, poor me, why is it happening? No, what lessons can I learn from this? It's happening for a specific reason. So what is the lesson that I'm supposed to take away from this? Not just like constantly like, oh, poor me. I've gone through a crazy 3 weeks of massive transition and then a car accident in between. And I'm just like, oh, why is this all hanging on onto me? But I'm like, no, this is the universe of like giving me a huge wake up call that I need to be aware of. And I can't sit here and cry about it. I can't sit here and just be like, poor me, everybody love me and care for me and baby me. No. This happens for a reason. And this is my opportunity to kind of see that light and be like, this is why it's happening, because I needed it. So
I know, good, bad, or otherwise. No, I hear you. And definitely a great mindset to embrace, and know that for you too, something amazing is around the corner.
Yes,
it is.
It is. Well, yes. I mean, and I know I'll continue to work with you professionally too. So we will definitely make something happen. But yeah, so let's pivot over now to talking about Pivot with Purpose. So we've kind of teased a little bit about your podcast, but now you've officially started a whole nother layer of your brand.
Yeah.
Which is so exciting. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is the first time you've ever done your own podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Oh, totally my first. I know. And you think about like, what's one more podcast out there? But you're like, why not podcasts? Like, you have good things to say, like what you're doing now, for whoever listens, I'm so grateful and appreciative. But yeah, it was really fun to put this together and get this out there. Yeah. So, with Pivot with Purpose, I hadn't done my own podcast, but again, kind of in the midst of last year and just all of the networking I was doing, saw an opportunity to be on a few podcasts where I was sharing some of my own career advice, wisdom, strategy, you name it, on, some fashion brand career podcasts, some smaller podcasts, a podcast that was run through the Parsons School of Fashion and Design called Retail Revolution, which is awesome, and hosted by one of my very good friends, Christopher Lacey, and also produced by a company called Fashion Cohort, which the producing team was like so amazing, so nice. And I actually want to kind of being on another small podcast with them, doing like a little sort of soundbite thing about hiring executives in the industry. and was sitting here and had it on my like dream board of like, okay, I really want to do a podcast. You know, how can this come out? Is it too soon after coaching and whatnot? And I actually wound up reaching out to the producer of Retail Revolution within Fashion Cohort. And I was like, hey, you know, I don't know where to start. I know I can't do this on my own. I don't have like the tech savviness to sit and edit and cut and the time or anything. Like if I want to do this, again, like anything, I want to do it right. I want it to sound good. I want to have like these really cool guests and just make it, you know, so it sounds professional and done by professionals. So they actually had got back to me. I was like, oh my gosh, Meghan, we were just thinking, and again, sign for the universe yesterday of like, we want to expand our producing offering and we're looking to take on a career podcast and wanting to bring on somebody that can come in and, you know, talk a little bit about careers and whatnot. So it was just kind of very magical that it came together, and they're like, sure, like we'll help you. we'll help produce, like we'll help make sure you set up and sound great. And they took me in under their wing and we came up with Pivot with Purpose, which for me, I mean, pivots are always happening in life. We're always pivoting. Right. Yes. So whether it's through life, career, day to day, major life events, whatever it is, we've been dealing with pivots forever. Pivot with Purpose is really all about aligning those pivots authentically to what you truly desire. And I have conversations or pivoting conversations to important messages that people want to put out there to lead, motivate, inspire. Have someone walk away saying like, wow, I'm so glad that was talked about because no one's talking about it or no one's addressing it like this. And I always pride myself on just being very real and raw. So there's a mix of Pivot with Purpose where I have incredible guests from the retail space, senior executives, you know, talking about their pivots and maybe very much like me, if anybody's watching this, you know, to be able to sort of learn where I've gone in my pivots, but you know, doing the same thing on that end, but also too, having guests that are senior executives and leaders of companies or local celebrities, you know, some other kind of well-known people out there that are talking about real issues. So I just talked about setting up a guest where we talk about retail and mental health and how for so many years, that burnout mentality of just like, that's the way it is. And, you know, you could have the worst crying fit ever, but you walk in and you're like, boop, 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 you know, get into your robot mode and you're like, everything's fine. And I'm going to work 27,000 hours a week. And that's just how it is. And
I'll definitely be tuning into that episode. I mean, I've already listened to the first. Yes, I've already listened to the first.
We spill it all. Yes. And, you know, this is kind of coming from, and I don't think that people see out there in our space like there are resources, and you know there's a lot of work I think that needs to be done. I think the pandemic really has helped the retail industry in terms a bit of what that work balance looks like, but not with everybody. So you know we have conversations from there to conversations continuing with like great HR people, you know, to like powerhouse moms that have 4 kids that are also running multiple businesses, that are like personal chefs and have their own clothing brand lines. And, you know, nothing has been handed to any of these people. And that's what I love about the curated guests that I'm talking about, is that they've really pivoted to their purpose and, you know, doing what they love against all odds, against, you know, whatever has come their way, struggles, trauma, tragedy, to triumph and being able to use this platform to share voices. So I just love telling people's stories. And I think the extension of, for me, helping people with their storytelling through coaching and business coaching, creating brands and kind of creating people's personal brands, to then being able to really have those individuals out there that I am inspired by come on the podcast and hopefully inspire others. You know,
that's incredible. Thank you. I mean, this is all like just to hear about your whole story from the beginning of your career to present. I mean, a lot of it's really inspiring because it was a lot of self-determination. It wasn't like you were riding on the back of somebody else's name to get you where you are. Like you've really worked so hard to get where you are today because of you. So I think it's nice to have people be able to listen to this and understand like, I have to be motivated. I have to be self-determined, and I have to put myself out there in potentially vulnerable positions to get where I actually want to be and be passionate doing what I'm doing. So I think, whatever you have done in your career has worked to your benefit because you have that amazing mindset. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing. You've had so
thanks.
many gems that you've dropped. It's like
Oh,
magical moment over here during this. So I thank you
oh,
so much for taking the time. And I know you have to sneak away soon to go
oh, it's
film or
okay.
record your podcast right now. So I won't hold you
Yeah.
too much, but Meghan, I want everybody to be able to find you, follow you, listen in, get coaching from you. So where can we
Mm-hmm.
contact you? Where can we follow you on social media? What's going to be the best way?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the best where I've curated my whole kind of brand offering is you can go to www.meghanhoule.com. And that's MEGHANHOULE. I have the H in my name. So meghanhoule.com. That's a really best place. From there, you can follow for my Instagram handles, which is probably where I'm the most active, at Meghan Houle Method and at Pivot with Purpose Podcast is there. If you want to see what I'm doing behind the scenes beyond putting out, career and other content, Boston Meg Houle is my personal handle, where I'm also, as you know, Katie, very animated and also sharing, really cool things and people and experiences. So between balancing personal life and business, I just want to kind of show up and be real and present for whoever chooses to follow me wherever they feel like they're the most interested. But you can find me online, at my website, but definitely feel free to follow on Insta. Would love new friends and community. So don't be afraid to reach out to me.
That's awesome. I know. Thank
Yeah.
you for all of that. And I hope you gain a lot more followers and connections because of this. But one last question for you, Meghan.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier, February of last year was really the last time you were on a plane.
Yeah.
When it is safe to travel, where do you want to go? Do you have like a dream board
Yeah.
for that? Or are you just gonna like throw a little pin on the map or dart and just say, that's where I'm going?
I know. I close my eyes. I think, first of all, somewhere warm. I don't even care if it's like summer here or fall here, or we went through summer. Just where I am in Boston, and I don't get down to the Cape much. It doesn't feel like summer, even though it is summer, because you're kind of not enjoying it the way that you wish that you could. So, we love the West Coast. I love Hawaii. So I would say it's probably torn between going back out to wine country in Napa and Sonoma, which are like my favorites. And there's some cool things out there that you can do, to probably Hawaii. I mean, that may be kind of our big investment trip of like getting out to an island, Kauai, which I just love. And maybe someday, I don't know, want to try to do some cool retreats out there, everybody. So everyone watching this, sign up and you're coming on my plane. Okay. So
that's perfect. That is perfect. I'm like, you better get a big jumbo jet, because everybody will be like,
no, come on, people.
Right now.
We'll call like Elon Musk. I'll be like, Elon, listen, I used to work with Tesla back in the day. Just like help me out here.
Yeah. You're like, you may or may not even know my name or that the fact I existed, but
It's
hey,
fine.
Please help me out on this.
Just a few dollars. You won't even miss it. So.
Exactly. No, and I'm just like, for as crazy as this last, like, honestly, this year has been, you've really been still like grinding all day, night, weekend. So I'm like, you deserve a vacation, and I hope you get
thanks,
that soon.
girl. We will. Maybe summer, but it's okay. The grind is great, and it gets you to where you want to go, and you appreciate all the things that come to you. But it's just about finding balances in days, and thankful too. Now some of the restaurants are open, more takeout, margaritas, all the things. They help,
Oh, yes, we forgot to mention who the sponsor was for this.
Oh yes, my lovely cabinet back. Yes, my favorite uncle Don Julio. Yeah, he's my favorite.
He's sponsoring this episode today.
I know. Next time we'll have to have a happy hour, which would turn into maybe 4 hours. So everyone will have to like sit tight, buckle in.
Perfect. It'll be the longest running YouTube episode ever. We'll hit a Guinness Book World Records, like drinks for everyone. Yes.
Right. You're like hour 1, hour 2. It's like, yeah, buckle in, everyone. It'll be exciting. So thank you for having me and for having me on this and all that you're doing. You're fabulous. And I'm so excited for the future for you and our relationship, and absolutely will continue to support you as well.
Thank you so much. You are the best, and come back soon, I hope.
Oh yeah, I'm here. You know where to find me.
Yes, I do. All right. Thanks, Megan. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.